This is the World Innovators Podcast with your host, Donna Peterson.
In order to have a relationship with someone, you have to know and understand them. And today I am so happy to be talking with Lisa Pistilli, who is the VP of Business Development at Leicester and the president of MCMA, Media and Content Marketing Association. She is going to help us really kind of understand how you have to have that good house file so that you can truly know and understand your audience. But before we get started, my name is Donna Peterson, and you are listening to the World Innovators Podcast. I talk with business owners and marketing executives all around the world about marketing trends and techniques, what's working, what's not, and really, how can we all do it better? So let's jump in. Do you find that there's certain messaging or channels that seem to work better?
So yes, but okay. So bottom line,
it depends. I know it must depend.
Well, no, it really doesn't. It depends on the budgets. It depends on client budgets.
Okay.
To be really honest, we make phone calls. Okay. And when you're on the phone with a company, just like you said, okay, and we can say, okay, so Tom Jones has left the company, but he's been replaced by Bob Smith. Oh, and Bob has two other guys that also they're in their own department, and we're capturing those. So we're building out. And yes, it's not cheap sometimes, but just like you said, if you have all of your data points in your house file, like you keep saying, what kind of value? You tell me, how incredibly valuable is that to turn around and say, I can market this. These people are going to engage. These people have the demographics you're looking for. So you're going to have a huge ROI, on any publisher is. But if you don't do it, look at what you're talking about. 55% of that one, whatever that example is, right? Versus, okay, so you've spent some money to update. And again, allocation across the year, so there's not like a huge big bump in a month and everybody has a heart attack. Right. Spread it out. Slow and steady wins the race, and you're going to see the effects after 6 months of a steady fresh influx of new updated leads is going to affect your response rates. I mean, it's not going to be a 20% bump in a month, but it could be 5%. And then over 6 months, maybe 8%, so we're inching up, and it is unfortunately the channel that works. So, and with the iOS news and the open rates not being reliable in the next few months. I mean, sure. Yes. If you post on LinkedIn, you can see your engagement. Sure. Great channel. But is that enough? Is that going to give you the validation of the data points that you need for your house file that you can then monetize it on your, through selling, right? If I'm not mistaken, that's the game, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do here is keep a database with all the data points fresh. Yes, it requires investment, but I believe that the monetization on the opposite end, it more than makes up for it. But it just has to be a trade-off, and it's easily managed. At least in my world. Look, I can't speak for, everybody out there, but in my world, it can be managed. It can be, it's an attitude. Okay. It has to be thought of that your data file is just as important as how many ads you sell. Because if your data file ages out, you're not going to be selling that many ads. Right. At least
you're not.
I mean, the way I was taught with B2B publishers, hands-on, that's truly the case.
Well, yeah, because your advertisers want to know how many subscribers you have, how large your database is. If that dwindles in size, they may not advertise with you because it's not a benefit. They're not getting as much eyes on their ads.
They're not getting clicks on their banners. Right. Clicks on the side. They're not getting engagement on content. If your little bot isn't, engaging or delivering value, there's a ton of different ways that keeping updated and engaged data can pay it back. Huge.
And I would think by doing it by telephone, like you said, you're not only going to update the person who's in Tom Jones' position, but you can possibly grab a few other people. And then you can also maybe ask them any additional information that might be missing on, Obviously the Excel spreadsheet that you have, if you're missing the fields of this, that's a question you can ask them that they fill out. And so then you're able to get that clearer picture of the company.
And then it's also changeable. It's not fixed in stone. Right. So if all of a sudden, your sales reps are saying, well, I need to know this, this, and this. Okay. So for 6 months, add the question. You'll capture enough information that'll give you enough data to project, or you'll have some information. And it's not hard.
Well, because then if you do that, you can also start to take the database and segment it into different pools. And then if you're able to segment it, that's when you can change around your content to be more specific to exactly what that person needs.
Exactly.
And that's when we get back to that whole build a relationship, which instills the trust, which then they want to buy from you, because we all know, one, it's emotion. People buy on emotion, and they've got to trust you.
The other thing is, I've always said this, phone calls, telemarketing, I hate the word, but teleservices, or just being on the phone, or being on, it's just like this. You learn so much by listening to what your target audience actually sounds like versus what you think it might be. It can be, it's like a free focus group. Spend a little time, ask some questions, play around with it. You'll learn something that you didn't know. And it can be the light bulb that goes off and say, oh, wait, I can sell this to X, Y, and Z. These potential advertisers that I needed the hook. Well, I didn't know this. I didn't know that this is something that my audience is saying or is involved in. Hook. That's what I needed to help open up a whole other avenue of advertisers somewhere. And that's, and I think that's the core, because it's still what's driving everything what we do in B2B and in some B2C.
Right. And I find with telemarketing, it's not as crowded in the space. People aren't getting that many phone calls. So they do pick up the call, they do answer it. And like you said, then you're able to fill in more details, get more information from them. And that only makes you grow your database even stronger than it was initially when you started out with this.
And I think, unfortunately, right this second, what's going on right now. So direct mail, unfortunately, and listen, look, direct mail works when it works. There's no doubt it works in several channels. But right this very second in time, there's a paper crunch that is seriously about to affect everything we do in this. And forget just B2B and B2C marketing. Everybody's marketing, catalogs, shipping, anything that was originally going out in paper right now might have to be rethought. So right this second, direct mail is not going to be your cheapest. Email, the iOS thing is going to screw everybody's open rates up. So you're not going to know there. So is it maybe phone calls are right this second an easier way? And you can control the cost. You can control the allocation. So hopefully right now people would maybe, explore that if they haven't in the past.
Yeah. And also with direct mail, I think there's also a delivery issue because things are so delayed. And so if you are doing a direct mail campaign for a time sensitive offer, that's a tricky thing, because things that used to get to people within a week or 2 weeks, bump it out 3-4 weeks. You don't know now because it's just very iffy on when things will be delivered.
So hilariously, this leads right in beautifully to, there is one other channel right now, or let me say one other marketing method channel universe that we haven't talked about, and that would be social media. And so this segues beautifully into some of the MCMA stuff. Is we as the MCMA right now are offering a 4-session executive level social media strategy class. Okay. And the idea is, as marketers, we're learning how to maximize, understand, and utilize social media marketing channels, the platforms themselves, and how to do it successfully. So when we're talking about what other possible channel is affordable, okay, this is one of them. Now, I can't say that in terms of massive numbers right away, you're going to get responsiveness. But over time, from what I've learned so far, over time, your numbers are going to increase. But it's not going to be, right this second, I don't believe it's going to, like, if you needed it in the next 6 months, you'll get an increase, but you're not going to make up 55%. But let's just say you use all of these tools in conjunction, you're affecting positive change on your files. So I think that's like the fun part. And so I think right now in marketing, it's interesting to watch, and there's so many different newer choices.
Yeah.
And it depends on, look, data points, you might not get through engagement, but you might find people that are engaged that you can then successfully email and get the data points that you're missing, or call them.
Yeah.
So, think about this, is that if you have social media that's engaging and people are clicking, you can identify them through everybody's fulfillment companies, send a marketer the file, and we call and update the records and get more data points. Like things like that. Like it's using them, all the different channels in combination to maximize response A. So we verified that the person is alive and clicking and reading and engaging, right? And 2, it's then updating the databases. Okay. Anybody's house file database, whatever you want to call it, it's finally getting updated. And that's going to lead to more engagement, at least in my mind.
No, you're right. I got a promotion the other day. It was for my father, who used to work at this company, but he's been gone 8 years now. And I've gone back to the company. I go, he's been gone 8 years. You guys really need to clean and update your file and take off the people who are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's scary to think that they were still promoting that around with his name on it when he's been gone for so long. So, but you're right. I think marketing is always little pieces. And I say marketing is a puzzle where we're always trying to figure out which piece goes in where. And even after we get that big, beautiful picture, sometimes it falls on the floor and we have to start all over again. But
I think now there's enough, I think, that if you use the pieces in conjunction with each other. So if you've identified this X group of people attended a webcast, opened an e-newsletter, or replied to an editor on something, okay? And let's just say for whatever reason that record hadn't been updated in 2 years, okay? You now know that they're still there. So now is it time to update them so we capture the data points that you're looking for. So you can say, I know these people are engaged. I know they're there. Give them a call, update them. Like, I think there's a good way to make that happen.
Yeah. That makes sense, because then you're doing it and you're working on those first set of people. Like you said, they're there. And now you can start creating more value from there.
I really do think it's
so what tactics do you think work best with audience development? And I think we might have already touched on that, but
I think it's utilizing each channel. Okay. So this is my honest to God true opinion from years of doing this, is that your audience. So let's just take a regular B2B file for argument's sake, and B2C. Okay. So if you have a segment of your audience that always fills out your tip on cover, okay, and it says renew now, there is a segment of your audience that has been doing that for years and will continue to do it. There is a segment of that audience that will say, here's your email, open it. If you say open it now and we'll leave you alone, they'll open it and fill it out. And then there's going to be the people that are going to ignore every message because they're going to wait for the phone call that they've gotten for the last 5 years. It's going to take them a minute and a half or 2 minutes. They're going to update it, and then they're not going to get another phone call. So I truly believe that the channel that you normally renew through is the one you will continue to update or renew through. And then where you get a new person is a different story. I don't know what the statistics are on people that come in through a newsletter but then renew on the phone. Like, I don't know what those statistics look like.
I see what you're saying.
But in updating an existing database, and I would argue that it works for paid as well. That if you have a paid subscriber database of any sort, that if they're used to getting their annual phone call to renew, or if they're used to getting their tip-ons or direct mail piece that says renew now for X amount of issues at X price, they're going to keep looking for that and do it that way. So I think that in terms of renewing or updating or requalifying, whatever you want to call it, I think that a channel goes to channel.
But see, that's a good point, that then publishers really need to be keeping track of that, of what are they responding to, which channel are they renewing their subscription, or which channel are you getting the most subscribers from? Because I would imagine, depending on industry, sometimes that would be different, but also titles. Mm-hmm. Obviously I'm talking about B2B, but titles, I'm sure there are certain titles that respond, via phone a lot better than, if you sent them an email campaign.
No, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's a fact. Yes.
And that goes back to, knowing that audience of yours And like you just said, if you keep track of that information, that's where you get a little bit more information about the individual so that you can offer them information that one will offer them value, but also on the channel that they like to respond to.
Right. And so when before COVID and when things started shifting a little bit away from audits, that was one of the data points that was stored in a true B2B audited file, was how had they renewed or conducted. It was written, telemarketing, or email. So, or I think it was email or web. So that helped. Now that people have moved away a little bit from the audit thing, it's a little bit harder sometimes, but if you ask, sometimes your clients can provide that information.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And then my last question. So as I mentioned in the beginning, you are the president of MCMA, which is the Media and Content Marketing Association. What are the new topics for the rest of 2021 and going into 2022?
So MCMA, we've really spent the last almost 2 years now really trying to address what's happening in the media, audience, content marketing world for all media companies. So whether it's more of a B2B or a B2C or a hybrid or events, it's discussing audience, it's discussing marketing, it's discussing the channels, it's discussing subscription boxes, it's everything, fulfillment, all of these different platforms that it's so multifaceted. It's really been amazing. And really what we're trying to do and have done is put out so much content that was so relevant to everybody in all of these different segments. So the exciting part was, over, oh my goodness, I think over 20 months, we put out like 30 pieces of content. We had 50 new companies or 50 new attendees and 20 or 30 new companies show up over the course of the last 2 years. It had never been above. So the virtual thing, while the pandemic forced virtual to be so important, it gave us an audience really to push out to engage to. So that's what I think the most amazing part of what's been going on with MCMA, and it's accessible to everybody now, because there is what used to be more of a New York City or a tri-state New York, Connecticut, maybe Northern New Jersey group has opened up to the country. Okay, so audience marketers from Iowa, Chicago, Detroit, California, they can all be engaged and listen and be a part of the industry conversation. And that's what we're trying to do, is serve the entire industry. And it's well, again, the pandemic and COVID has forced everybody in. It's also widened and opened this whole arena up for everyone else. So I encourage everybody to just give a real plug for the website. It's www.the-mcma.org. Okay. And there's a section on upcoming events, but I'm going to tell you about it as well. Just so you know, there is a digital subscription that is possible. I think it's $49 a year for anybody who's not on the East Coast or doesn't travel to New York frequently. You can be a part of all of the sessions that we have, town halls, candid conversations that are truly amazing. The candid conversations are so fabulous because it's everybody sharing. Just like you said earlier, I think it was in the beginning of the call, that you hear different things from you hear the same thing from different clients across the country that don't know each other. No. And that's exactly how Candid Conversation started, because I had the same experience. And I was like, I want to try this. Let's do this. Let's do a virtual Candid Convo town hall talk. Tell me what you're all going through, because I hear this, this, and this. What do you all think? Yeah. So in that vein, so coming up in October, somebody that you now know well, Dennis Hecht, who was on, I think last month or last week, your last podcast, Dennis Hecht. He is, and you're going to be on it. Oh, that's so exciting. In October, I forgot. There's going to be a great town hall candid convo on audience data strategies. I believe is the official topic, and there's a panel with you and one of Dennis's people that he knows from Farm Journal. I can't remember her first name, but Kim. I know that she's there. Kim, yes. So that's exciting. So that's October. In November, we have two industry icons that are going to hold sort of a one-on-one, not really point counterpoint, but a one-on-one conversation. And it's Bo Sachs
Okay.
and Mr. Magazine, Samir Husni, I think his name is.
Mhm.
And they're going to have a one-on-one wide open with questions. So that is the November event. And these two are industry legends.
Yeah,
And
great event.
it's right after Samir's ACT conference. So it'll be right after that. So there'll be lots of content for everybody to hear about. In December, there will be a virtual industry holiday event. Everyone is invited. We invite everybody to come as sort of a group. There's usually a team event, plus lots of gift card giveaways. It's just a fun time as an industry to come together. And especially now that sort of it's not encouraged at the moment in my world to really, for all of us to get together. It's a great way to see the whole industry together.
Yes.
January, we have a big keynote. Right now, Jeff Litvak, who was the CEO at Adweek, he's scheduled to speak. February is going to be some candid conversations, and we're going to talk about paywalls. March, again, is going to be audience data strategies, again, with Dennis, with a different panel. No, thank you for participating, but we're going to let others join in. And then it's going to, April and May and June, there's going to be some new interesting things. We're just not sure the order of what's going to happen. But it's going to be, you know, we invite all of you to come, and all of your listeners, if you would like a free pass, we're happy to provide one for your first participation. We'd love to have everybody involved. And truly, that's what they're designed to do, especially the candid conversations. We want everybody to show up and talk. And I believe you've been there. And you, what do you think? Do you think that the conversations over the last year and a half, 2 years have been?
Yes. Well, it sounds like first you've got a great lineup coming up with such good variety. And I love those town halls because, you know, we all have problems or issues during our work day. And it's just great to sometimes go out with people who are in the same space that might have a similar challenge, or maybe they just got over their challenge and they're able to share that insight with you. And so it helps you just get over that hurdle faster. And I don't want to say misery loves company, but you know, it's just nice to know you're not alone in that what you're experiencing or your clients are experiencing. Or as a publisher, you know, publishers have had a rough road over, you know, not even the last few years. It's been a while. You know, they had to go through, first they were just print to go to digital, and then they had to decide, are you just digital, skip the print? And, you know, there's always been issues with them to hold on to their audience and how to, you know, produce their publication and send it out. And to have these town halls where people can get down and dirty is great, and to talk about topics. I think I said to you, that's why I started this podcast. It was just for marketers to talk about, you know, what's working, what's not working. So hopefully people will avoid it. And it's quality way of doing marketing. You know, like you mentioned, Bo Sachs being, what is that, November?
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear him. You know, I subscribe to all his newsletters. I find them to be very insightful and giving me tips every day. And sometimes it may not even be something I need at that moment. It's sort of like what you said, but you learn something and you keep it kind of back there in the back of your brain. And then all of a sudden something comes up and you need to, you know, talk to a client like that, or you just might be on a podcast like this and, oh, the topic comes up.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's exactly. And it's provided such fodder for relevant content. You know, if I hear it from two people and then I see a Bo email, I'm like, uh-oh, this really is a thing. We need to do something. We need to put it out there and get a conversation going.
Well, I have to tell you, my first article I saw about death of the open rate, and I didn't open it up to read. I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. You know, it's been death of radio, you know, postal is dead, email is dead. And I just assumed it was one of those until I finally, you know, started to look into it more. And I said, okay, this is what they're talking about, the iOS 15 and the death of the open rate.
Yep.
But you're right. It's just, well, and also with marketing, you know, marketing evolves at such a fast pace. You have to stay current and you have to be evolving. If you don't, you'll be left behind. Sort of like what you were just saying about people in their databases.
Don't let them age. It's the worst thing you can do.
Right. And if they don't take that initiative to spend a little bit of time at keeping their database at the number that they're at, to cut back on that decay, After a while, they won't really have much of a database. And
Right.
even what they have left won't have enough information for them to supply relevant information to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So it's the way of the world.
It is. Well, it's the only way right now. I strongly believe that the only way that you're going to exist going into the future is if you build those relationships with your prospects, lead subscribers. And if you do that, they'll come back. And I like to say then become ideal clients, meaning they come back to you year after year after year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, with some magazines, if it's an industry magazine that offers value, those subscribers stay on those files for the lifetime of their job. And sometimes, the subscribers stay on even after they finish their job because it's an industry. Obviously, they had an interest in it and they want to know more.
They're, just because it's a thing, but if they're really dedicated to something they've served for a long time, they do want to stay on. It's a real thing. That is for sure.
Yeah. So, well, I really thought this was great. I don't want to hold you too much longer, but I wanted to say thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Donna. I really loved it. I thought it was fabulous. And thank you. And to your audience, I'm really grateful, and please engage. With everybody.
And join us on the MCMA for the different events.
Yes, please.
So,
www.the-mcma.org.
Great. And you know what? Fax me over the schedule for the MCMA. I'll get it listed on everything also.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the World Innovators Podcast. For more information about today's topic, email us at dpeterson@worldinnovators.com or call 860-210-8088. And please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode.